Hey everybody, Bob here with Trade Genius. Got my good friend Phil here. You think you know what they're trying to do to you, but there is a deeper, more sinister plan. Stay tuned.
Trade Genius.
Hey guys, I'm gonna tell you something that we do that really will change the way in which you look at trading and also absolutely help you increase your profitability and how much money you make. It's the Trade Genius newsletter. We put the newsletter out Sunday night through Thursday night, and this really looks at the plumbing of the markets and helps prepare you for the next trading day and help you make money. And we give you a lot of information. We give you market statistics, we give you market levels, we give you the seasonality, what's happening with different sectors of the market, and we will help you identify whether the market's in a bear mode or a bull mode, or whether it's euphoric, whether it's despondent, and it just puts you in a position to be on the right side of the trade. So take advantage of our offer that we have below, and you'll love it. I mean, one trade that you make with this thing can pay for definitely a month, maybe even a year's worth of service. It's that powerful. Use promo code podcast for 15% off the retail price of newsletter. Thanks for listening.
Hey Phil, everybody kind of has their eye on Fed now, but that's really not the beast we should be worried about. There's something more sinister at play. You want to elaborate for everybody?
Yeah, so, and there's been like this misconception Fed Now equals CBDC. They're separate. Fed Now is more about like the infrastructure. Now, it could play into the CBDC master plan, of course, because it's going to enable instant transactions, which if you think about it, here in the 21st century, they probably should have instant transactions on their network. And that's where crypto's been blowing them out of the water for a number of years now. But the Fed Now system is actually a precursor to what is a more global effort to enable instant cross-border payments. And I think this is why we've seen such pushback from the regulators all over the place on crypto, because crypto is basically stealing their thunder. And one thing that the governments are very protective of is their fiat currencies, right? And so you can't have the peasants running outside of the playground, basically, right? You can't have them being monetarily independent. That causes problems for a lot of the governments. But the big one that you guys need to watch out for is Project Nexus. And Project Nexus is essentially Fed Now, but on a global basis, and would play into the Fed Now infrastructure. But essentially, these guys have even come out and said, and I don't have the actual clip, but essentially in a podcast, one of the developers that's working on Project Nexus, which is, again, just enabling cross-border payments between different countries, different central banking systems, okay? But basically they're saying this would make Venmo and those types of apps obsolete, which means that they may be looking at going to individuals, essentially. Now, that's outside the role of central banks currently, but that's the next step that I think, Bob, that people need to keep an eye on, is whether or not they start saying, oh, well, individuals can start banking with us, no problem. Because that goes outside most central banking charters, and especially our central banking charter. They cannot deal with individuals, okay? So if we want to start worrying about CBDCs and surveillance and things like that, that would be the next step that we have to watch out for. And then you had found the slide that basically talked about how this can play into, this Project Nexus would play into CBDCs and stablecoins. Stablecoins, again, outside of the system, as far as the banking system is concerned, they don't like it. And that's why they've been going after it. But I thought it was funny that it's basically them trying to get their arms around something that we've independently been doing outside of the banking system, and they're actively trying to prevent that from happening. But they're trying to do it in a way where it's not like there's this sudden like rebellion against the legacy system or the incumbent system, right? Because last thing you want is them turning on you saying like, you can't, outlaw our stable coins, you can't outlaw our crypto. But if you look at it from that standpoint of what they're trying to do slowly without upsetting everyone, this is the way to do it. And so I'll kick it back to you, but I think people have a legitimate concern here as far as CBDCs and this whole, instant payment, maybe even us as individuals dealing directly with central banks, but in a surveilled way.
Yeah, and I think the first thing, besides the obvious, making things more frictionless, which is a positive, I think what really is going to happen, if you notice lately, the drumbeat is on, we're going to de-dollarize, we're going to de-dollarize, we're going to de-dollarize. The United States government, once they have Fed Now and Nexus in place, they can just simply say, you have 30 days to uproot your cash that's outside of the country and submit it to a bank for repatriation into the United States. And I think this is the way they're going to uproot all the people and all the money that's outside the United States that has been, stolen through money laundering or terror networks, all that good stuff. And I think it's another way for them to make dollars more scarce again, Phil, to keep the power of the dollar higher. That's kind of my tinfoil hat on this, and kind of a phase one event. Phase two, they absolutely want to cripple these altcoins for sure. Like I said, and you've said as well, that Bitcoin is likely protected. They don't want all these altcoins that are flying out all over the place where transactions can occur without the surveillance state monitoring things that are coming in and leaving the country. That's just my view on that. And it will happen. And if I could sell this, right, and you could sell this, it sounds so sweet. Look, you want to get rid of fentanyl and the guys making money in the Chinese and the Mexican government. Well, paper dollars is no longer going to be valid. Everything's going to have to go through this system, and our FBI and CIA will be monitoring those transactions, and that's how they're going to sweet song it into the American consciousness. They won't do anything inside the U.S. first. They're going to show the benefit of the system and say, well, if you really like that, watch what we can do for you inside the border here.
Right.
Or Yellen's going to say, hey, I don't have to raise taxes on anybody. There's a lot of people hiding their money here in the U.S. Let's uproot it for the good of the country. I could sell this stuff all day long. That's what's coming down the pike.
100% agree. I think they're gonna definitely sell it to the point where it's gonna make it hard to resist for a lot of people. I think most of our viewers are the type that see it for what it is, but there's a lot of retail customers out there and the general public that just would be like, oh, okay, let's do this because it sounds like it's for the greater good. You could even see things like they'll say, well, if you want to stay in cash, you're only going to be covered for $250,000 in deposits, but if you convert to CBDC, you'll be covered for up to $5 million in deposits. Okay, that's going to create a large number of conversions in and of itself, especially in the business community. And I think once that starts to happen, I think it's going to be hard to stem that tide. But I think ultimately there's going to be a fight to the bitter end about getting rid of cash completely. And so I think we'll have like a dual system in place, and you're going to have a fight for a while about totally converting to a digital dollar.
Absolutely. And you can just see, and they're really worried, Phil. You can see them racing now because I think they realize that they're coming down the runway here and they haven't reached launch speed again.
Right.
Just like they screwed up on, the pandemic response, and before that they screwed up on the climate change response. They haven't found the lockbox yet, and they're determined that this one won't suffer the same fate, and they're going to try to lock us into the trap as quickly as possible, I think.
Yep, agreed. All right, guys. Well, that's our thought on it. I think you guys had been expressing concerns for the last couple of months in the comments about CBDC, so we thought we would address it. Let us know your thoughts on what we've covered today. I'd love to hear what your opinion is on this and what you think should happen going forward. Otherwise, please hit like and subscribe. And thank you for watching the show. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Trade Junior.